Hello, everybody. This is Alber. Today, I wanted to talk a little bit about the Analog Heat Mark II. A good friend of mine has been generous enough to loan me this nice machine. I kind of just taking it for a test drive. And, lots of people keep asking the same question. Is this worth it? Is this something that makes you want to change your setup and pull the trigger and spend the money on this kind of machine, or is it really something that we want to leave to the rich audiophiles, so to speak? So I'm still figuring that out, to be honest with you. My quick answer is that I am probably not going to need it for what I use it for, but I wanted to give you an overview of what the practical use of this kind of machine can be. There's tons of videos out there if you want to document yourself about what this can or cannot do, but this is just my honest user review, which I feel like these kind of real world inputs can be kind of useful. At least they are for me. So anybody else who puts their opinion out there and they show out the workflow, it's always interesting to see in how many ways a machine, a well crafted, a well thought out machine can be used. So personally, in my latest videos, I was talking about how I downsized my equipment from my old setup, which consisted in the Roland Boutique JU06A, so the Roland June emulation, and a Micro Freak, which I turned into keyless desktop version Micro Freak, and a Volca FM that I mainly use just for bass. So I have the Roland SH4D that basically can do all what those boxes did and then some. And so one box versus three, it's kind of a good deal for me. It's more streamlined. I'm talking about more at length about that in my other video, so feel free to check that out if you want to know more about it. And there's also more coming. But then I was like, okay, what could make me want to change my opinion about something like this added to my setup? So, this is a sample. I'm just going to let the music speak for itself, all right? So, this is like a little drum beat. And let's push the magic button. Let's play it with it a little bit. I always like to have this comparison on, off. Okay. So, hate to be that guy, but I would say that the analog heat is something that needs to be experienced with headphones. What do I mean by that? So, unfortunately, in the world we live in, there is people who lie and there's people who listen to music through their phone speakers. Okay. I'm pretty much sad about that. So, whenever I record something and then I listen from my phone, which is the way most people enjoy their music, their short format content, okay, on Instagram or platforms like that, I can hear a little bit of this, but when you start working this into your mix the way I feel like it was intended to be worked in, the difference becomes a little bit tighter. I'm sure you can hear something. I'm sure you can hear this. I'm sure you can hear this to a degree, but it gets to the point where you need good equipment to hear other good equipment play, right? So that's already one thing to keep in consideration. For this is not a problem for lots of people, but when you get to if you try to buy synthesizers, having in mind making the money back from live gigs, or trying to really be a working musician that uses synthesizers or drum machines, then I would say that you want to take that in mind for sure. So I've been using this machine primarily with drum sounds. I found it that with melodic sounds, it really sounds like, I mean, what it does really is to add distortion, right? That's what's intended for. But I also feel like in my music, I rarely need melodic material to be distorted. And when I do, I already have things in here that can kind of provide that vibe without overdoing it, right? So maybe sometimes I might want to have some bass distortion, and sure, this can do that. But if you're looking to overdrive your signals, I would say that there is like cheaper and less encumbering solutions to this. Even though this is analog, to my humble ears, this can sound just as good as other machines. I know that this is going to be like a very contentious point that I'm making, but again, everybody's got different ears. I have mine, and this is what my ears hear. Okay. So, anyways, I've been mostly pairing this machine with drum sounds where I really feel like it does wonders for transient movement. Okay. And all that kind of stuff, generally speaking. And I played live a few days ago after having used this machine a bunch, and I went without it. Okay, I just went with my Digitact, and I will say that I kind of miss having this on stage for a moment. Okay, let me load something. It was during this beat over here. Let's see if it's all. Okay. So this is like the analog kit is not working right now. If I turn it on. There's like, I can always hear a more defined low end with this, which is what the Digital sometimes doesn't have. It's like a fat, punchy low end. I want to hear that beefy bass drum hit, right? Now, there's always ways to do what you want to do, or at least to get closer to it within the Digitact, okay? You can use compressors. You can just like a resample stuff. You can use, all the awesome filter tools that you have in here. They keep adding it. They keep updating it. So I would say that you can get to similar sounds with just one machine, but when it comes to, beefing it up, this is kind of cool. Something that I've always been interested to have, okay, in my percussion, but really like on my overall sound, is to have performance variation capability, okay? So you can do a little bit of that with this. I don't think this was designed at all with, being a performance machine in mind, okay? So if I'm going to play the same beat, I can move up the filter. Oh, gotta turn it on. I can open an LFO with it. Let's see. Got some EQs in here, yes. Yeah, so you can mess with it. You can definitely do stuff like that. Nice. You can play with it a little bit on the live setting, and yes, you can do that filter thing, but again, it doesn't work as well when you're bussing the entirety of your mix through it, at least for my ears, okay? I feel like this is a drum processor for the way I see it. I know that other people have used this for different purposes. If you want a comparison with something that lots of people are familiar with, I would say that this is the analog hardware version of what Drum Bus does on Ableton, okay? Maybe you know what I'm talking about. Drum Bus is an awesome tool on Ableton, and when I turn that on, it kind of does what this does. It beefs everything up, especially the low end. You also have transient control of the drum on the Drum Bus, which is probably my most favorite control over drums that I have. You kinda have that in here, even though it's more of a workaround rather than something that this machine was made specifically to do. So yeah, you have a little bit of filter capability. You have the equalizer, which is kind of really handy to and really effective to change your sounds. Let me try a little bit. Let me turn on the filter. Low end. There you go. High end. Resonance. So yeah, you can do a bunch of things. You basically have this equalizer, and then after the equalizer, you have a master filter. You got many kinds of filters in here, and a pretty cool resonance effect. So it's nice to have a master track over your Digitech. Doing Control All over here, it's cool, but also doesn't always work the way you want it to. So in a way, this is a little bit better. What I like the most about the analog heat is the envelope follower function, okay, over here. And Dave Mack really talks about it at length in his video, so I really recommend watching that. You can use this as a compressor, even though, again, it wasn't necessarily built to do that, but the envelope section, it's pretty cool when it comes to that, because you can assign you can basically assign the effect that it's gonna kick in after the threshold is met, right? And so you can do wet level, you can do drive level and all that. Let's see if I do dry wet mix. That sounds good. Yes, give a little depth. You can see here the threshold. And you can assign it to, whichever part of the spectrum you want. Right now, it's really like listening to the low end stuff. You can assign it to higher stuff. Yeah, and this is... I'm an idiot. I should have turned it on. You know what? I was like, this is not really changing much. Well, never mind. There you go. I'm an idiot. So this is the high-end stuff that you can hear. Now let's make it listen to low-end stuff. Turn it off. Turn it on. Yeah, well, I take it back. Even when you turn it on, you have to spend some time dialing in what you're looking for and this specific, finding the threshold in everything you do. But yeah, so I kind of struggle finding a practical use for this box, because when I'm in the studio, I know that I have tools within Ableton that I can have more control over, and they can do exactly what this can. As far as a distortion machine, I really been using clean boost, saturation, and enhancement. Enhancement is probably as far the highest kind of distortion I'm willing to go for in my sound, at least. Saturation is also very nice. But then I would say that if you bring it beyond those, especially on the right side, yeah, high gain is always like a mess. So I would say that on the right side over here, if you're looking for a very expensive, fancy distortion pedal, sure, you can use this. You can have all the fancy LFO and stuff like that in it if you want to. As far as using this on drums practically, the only, I mean, if you are into terrorcore or gabber music, or you play hard techno and you're going for those kinds of sounds that they kind of like, poke a hole in the speaker, so to speak, kind of thing, then I would say this is definitely something that is going to enrich, especially in your palette, especially when it comes to this area of the instrument. If you play live electronic drums, this is still a nice addition to your setup, but I would argue that there might be more compact, more economical choices for this, or at least like at the same price point. I am personally not going to keep this, even though I've enjoyed greatly using it. I'm trying to downsize. I'm in a moment where more machines, it means to me more things that can go wrong, and so I right now really enjoying going with the Digitech and the SH4D on stage, and I still feel the Digitech is a little bit thin, especially on the bass drum. But I also find ways and workarounds in which I can partially overcome that problem. Sure, this would be a nice alternative, and this would fix some of my beats, especially, stuff like this. But at the same time, you always got to put things on a scale, right? How much do I really need it versus how much I'm just geeking out and trying to find something new? And this is like, we all go through the same kind of motions. So for me personally, I will be giving my good friend this machine back, and we'll exchange information, and he just got a Syntec, and I'm very curious to hear how this works together in tandem with a Syntec, with those kinds of sounds, with actually synthesized drums rather than samples. But I would say that this is definitely a machine you gotta try and listen. If what comes out of this, it's ear candy for you, besides just the pure distortion, if you can make sense of the envelope follower function, then I would say you can definitely have a lot of fun out of this. But if you're looking for just pure practicality, how many functions for your buck you want to get out of it, then I would say there's probably other stuff. You can probably do enough things with the Digitech internal compressor than anything else. Well, thank you for sticking around. I hope that this helped you. This is Alber. Until next time.